A diplomatic firestorm has erupted, sending shockwaves through international corridors of power and igniting fierce debate across continents. At the heart of this storm is Spain, now thrust into the spotlight as it finds itself at the center of a high-stakes confrontation with the United States. On March 4th, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez delivered a nationally televised address, unequivocally condemning the recent U.S. and Israeli military strikes against Iran, calling them reckless and destabilizing for the region. More importantly, Sánchez made headlines by refusing Washington's urgent request to use Spanish military bases for further attacks, framing his decision as a moral imperative and a stand for international law. In his speech, Sánchez declared, "No to the war," echoing the powerful anti-war sentiment that has swept across Spain, where citizens have taken to the streets in protest. This bold stance comes as Sánchez leads a fragile minority government, with recent polls showing overwhelming Spanish opposition to U.S. military actions and a growing desire for an independent foreign policy. The refusal is the latest in a series of public disagreements with President Trump, including sharp criticism of Israel's actions in Gaza, which has further strained diplomatic ties, and Spain's outright rejection of higher NATO spending targets, despite mounting pressure from Washington and other allies. These mounting tensions set the stage for a major international dispute, highlighting deep and widening policy differences between Madrid and Washington. Spain's decision signals a fundamental divergence in how the two nations view military force, diplomacy, and the path to global stability, potentially reshaping alliances for years to come. Washington's response was swift and severe. President Trump threatened a complete trade embargo on Spain, a move with profound economic consequences. U.S. officials accused Spain of endangering American lives and betraying the Transatlantic alliance. Confusion followed as the White House falsely claimed Spain had reversed its stance, which Madrid immediately denied. The legal basis for Trump's threat is murky, as recent Supreme Court rulings limit his authority to impose broad tariffs. This aggressive posture risks alienating key allies and undermining decades-old partnerships. France quickly rallied behind Spain. President Macron called Sánchez, urging all EU states to present a united front if the US imposes a trade embargo. Macron's shift from initial support for the US to open criticism marks a turning point in Europe's response. He now advocates for European autonomy, proposing a coalition to secure the Strait of Hormuz and activating EU tools to counter US economic pressure. Macron's stance is driven by both legacy and a vision for a stronger, independent Europe. The crisis tests the EU's ability to act as a cohesive force. Europe is moving beyond statements, seeking practical means to defend its interests. The economic stakes are high, especially for Spain, whose exports to the US total 16 billion euros annually. From automotive parts to fresh produce, Spanish industries rely heavily on American markets to sustain growth and employment at home. A U.S. embargo would hit key sectors like pharmaceuticals and olive oil, threatening thousands of jobs. The livelihoods of farmers, factory workers, and entire communities could be at risk, with ripple effects spreading far beyond Spain's borders. The fallout could ripple across the EU, given the deep transatlantic trade ties. Billions of euros in goods and services flow between the continents each year, making any disruption a serious concern for the European economy as a whole. The European Commission has warned it will act to protect EU interests, signaling that an attack on one member is an attack on all. Brussels is preparing countermeasures and urging member states to stand together in the face of external pressure. However, divisions remain. Germany and the UK initially sided with the US, complicating unity. Their economic priorities and political alliances have made forging a common EU response more challenging. The Trump administration may exploit these rifts, testing Europe's resolve. Washington's strategy appears aimed at deepening divisions, making it harder for the EU to present a united front. The crisis is a litmus test for EU solidarity and its credibility as a global actor. How Europe responds now will shape its influence and reputation on the world stage for years to come. Iran has praised Spain's stance, further complicating the already tense geopolitical landscape and drawing new lines in the sand. This unexpected support from Tehran has added another layer of complexity to an already volatile situation, making it clear that the consequences of these diplomatic moves will ripple far beyond Europe's borders. The crisis highlights shifting alliances and forces Europe to reconsider its relationship with the US, as old certainties give way to new realities. European leaders are now grappling with how to balance transatlantic ties while responding to growing calls for independence and self-determination. President Trump's threats are accelerating calls for European strategic autonomy, the ability to act independently on the world stage, free from American influence. This debate is no longer theoretical. It's becoming a pressing issue for policymakers across the continent. Achieving unity among 27 nations is difficult, but mounting US pressure may be the catalyst Europe needs to finally move forward together. The stakes are high, and the decisions made now could shape the continent's future for decades. If the EU rallies behind Spain, it could mark a historic turning point, showing the world that Europe is no longer content to be seen as a junior partner, but is ready to lead and defend its own interests. This dispute is about more than Iran. It's about the future of the international order and the balance of power in a rapidly changing world. The choices made here will echo far beyond the immediate crisis. Europe now faces a defining choice: assert itself as an independent power on the global stage, or remain divided and risk being sidelined in world affairs. The world is watching closely to see if Europe will rise to the occasion, seize this moment, and truly redefine its role in the 21st century.